Probably the thing that hit me most over the past week is I did spend some time on C-SPAN watching the oral arguments of the vaccine mandates.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if you paid much attention to that,
Sure. And I
but
saw your great post on one of those
yeah,
justices there, giving us just an absolutely sort of shocking, shall we say,
at
response.
least I thought it was. I actually heard that live when I was watching the hearings. I'm like, I kind of like twitched a little bit. I'm like, did she really say that? But the things that Sotomayor said, and some of the other justices about COVID facts were blatant, and I think that was the most blatant exercise of politics from the bench that I've seen in my decades. But when she said, let me try to get the quote exactly right. Um, I am not sure I understand the distinction why the states would have the power to institute a mandate. Those last words are mine. Um, but the federal government wouldn't. I was like, this oh, I lost him.
I
Anyway, this
mean,
this
okay.
really goes to say that what Mike Meharry told me uh, on a recent interview I did with him, that the 10th Amendment is pretty much ignored in law schools. This is
Mm.
Sotomayor's a Yale law grad. She knows, right? She at least knows. Is she just ignoring it? That's probably the case. But in the article, I also really kind of pointed out, of course, MSNBC and CNN dedicated no time to this, right? Because they knew Sotomayor was just off the rails saying there was 100,000 pediatric cases. Um, but the Fox News hosts, and I saw quite a few of them, very few, and I can't remember names, very few even touched on the portion about her n- not getting the 10th Amendment. Most of them were all over the COVID statements. And
Yeah, that's the part that got a lot of traction was the 100,000 kids basically being hospitalized and all
yeah,
that, and just how exaggerated that is. But I think the quote that you kind of accurately kind of dialed in a little bit was about states' rights, basically. Like
oh, yeah.
it was just so weird. I quote here's the quote. I'm not sure I understand the distinction why the states would have the power to institute a mandate. Uh, but the federal government wouldn't. And that was it's just crazy to think that that is the Constitution flipped on its head. But
Yeah.
that shouldn't surprise us. I mean, this is literally the politics in the judicial branch. And, I have to admit, if we were on the clock to kind of like right before you and I kind of partnered up to write together, I was writing for a lot of pop culture websites. And I remember writing a political article for one that I don't know why we did that, but we did. And I talked about how I thought Sonia Sotomayor would not only be Obama's pick, that she was like a crazy radical leftist. And in hindsight, she's worse than I even thought she was because of stuff like this. Like she has no problem going on the record in complete opposition to other justices that are making very clear, distinct factual statements and questions about where the lines would be drawn about when this ends. So I think it was Justice Barrett who asked basically, like, if we allow OSHA to do this, what's the limiting principle? When does this end? Like, if OSHA,
Mhm.
there's no end to the pandemic that we know. And if we say this is okay, what's to stop OSHA? And I'm paraphrasing all of this, folks. Um, what's to stop OSHA from now mandating another vaccine, let's say influenza or pneumonia or what, and just to use more of a, equal apples to apples thing. So the fact that she would do this, I think, was shocking. You just did such a great job of sort of like, dialing right in on the insanity of all of this.
Yeah. And the fact that a lot of, I don't know, Republican, conservative, talk radio, cable news people were all over Sotomayor, justifiably over her COVID stuff. Very few even discuss the quote that we're talking about now. And I guess that doesn't surprise me that much. But you gotta stop saying that you're this constitutionalist all the time when the Constitution is being trampled on. You don't say much. You're more worried about you know other things.
Political points. Yeah, political points over COVID. I mean, it's literally how it was basically being played in the media and the press, the right-wing media. It was a lot more of like, point out how she's ignorant because of the 100,000 quote and kids and hysterics. And it was trying to paint her. And I admit, I think I tweeted something along this lines of like, she sounds like she's an MSNBC watcher for sure, where she's just randomly quoting COVID hysteric numbers that don't even make sense, let alone actually be accurate. But you're absolutely right. The media just completely turned a blind eye to the states' rights issues there. That was definitely a situation that didn't get any play.
Hey, we're News Talk with Brandon and Bob. We're here to tell you about some of the facts so you don't have to waste your time watching CNN.
We don't want you wasting any time with CNN.
Or Fox or MSNBC or some of these other guys that are making a whole lot of money.
Et cetera, et cetera.
It's not paying.